A very good evening to all of you who are connected here today. Again, this is Edwin, your host for the day, and thank you very much for all those who have joined in today. We from Asia Pacific University, the School of Media Arts and Design, are immensely happy to have been organizing this webinar series for the last 3 weeks, and we have been able to do this successfully only because of your continuous support. And yet again today, we are glad to bring you another interesting webinar session. And at this juncture, I just want to share some of the comments that we have got from the previous webinar sessions, because these encouraging comments from you actually takes us forward to give you more interesting webinars. So I'm happy to share a few of the comments that you have shared during the feedback session. So like this, your webinars are good for people who want to know about AR/VR, which is related to the last webinar that we actually organized. We are glad to know that we are able to actually open up avenues and open up new knowledge, and that actually keeps us pushing to do more. Another comment, program is very much an eye-opener. Special thanks to Dr. Andrew for giving us a wide exposure on AR/VR. And of course, we are bringing in the most important topics for you and good resource persons to actually share their knowledge. So please do continue your support for this. And of course, one of the comments says that continue your service for students and faculty community. We are glad, we are actually honored from Asia Pacific University to actually have been able to provide you continuous knowledge, new knowledge every week on week. So thank you very much for the support that you have been providing us all this while. And on that note, today's session is going to be again a very, very interesting session, especially for people who want to venture into freelancing. And at this current situation where we are all locked down, confined, I believe freelancing is the best option we got to get connected to people and work from home. So on that note, I like to present to you my co-host, Leroy, as well as the guest for the day, Miss Monica. At this,
Hello.
hi, Leroy, and hi, Monica. Thank you for joining today. This webinar is specifically very, very special for a reason, because we from the lecturers, both myself and Leroy, are actually glad that we are able to bring in one of our alumni students for the webinar. So that is a proud occasion for us. The first webinar session from the school, conducted by a former student, the first bunch of VFX students from the School of Media Design, and one of the promising students, I can definitely say that. And thank you very much for Monica for being with us. I like to share a few words about my colleague and my friend Leroy. Leroy is an asset to our School of Media Arts and Design. He's an expert in VFX and animation, and he's a lecturer currently working with the School of Media Arts and Design. He completed his master's from Multimedia University in the field of multimedia, and he has worked with various industries. Special to mention is EL Videographics and Twisted Media. So he comes with both academic as well as industry background. So thank you, Leroy, for being the co-host and leading this session for today. Leroy also manages and runs the School of Media Arts and Design MAD Club. Why do I mention that specifically here is Monica was the first president of the club. So I wanted to connect them both in this platform. The MAD Club lecturer who had been organizing this, and the first president for the club. So that's going to be an interesting session between both of them. On that note, I would hand over to Leroy to carry this session forward. And all the best, Monica.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Edwin, for the kind words. Welcome everybody to this webinar session. As Edwin has mentioned, I'm your co-host today. Um, but maybe to kick things off, I think it's good that we introduce our speaker first, okay? Because the focus is always about the speaker, not about the guy on the left. All right. So Monica is our alumni, and she graduated in the year 2019, about a year ago. Okay. While she was studying, like Edwin mentioned, she was our first ever Met Club president, a very outstanding one as well. More so, she was also very active in extracurricular activities. All right, making herself available to really serve the community, the design community in APU. All right, she's an exemplary student and really poised to join the industry as a junior VFX artist. However, she decided once she graduated that she would take a different route, a route that it's I would say uncharted waters as well, and very different from her peers. She decided to do something very different. Okay, so here she is today, all right, and she will be sharing with us her take on how to get started on freelancing. All right, and without further ado, I will leave this session in her good hands, and I'll come back later.
Thank you, Mr. Leroy. So flattering description about me. Yes, I was an alumni in APU, and yeah, I did instead of joining the industry like as a VFX artist, I went to freelancing. So I think there'll be a very interesting thing to talk about and to share with everyone else today. Okay, so jumping into my session. The session is getting started into freelancing. So basically today I'm going to be sharing just some experiences or some tips that I have. Disclaimer, it might not necessarily work for you because everybody has a different way of working, but this is something, these are some of the tips that I think would be very helpful, especially for those who are starting or those who are looking to sort of like level up their freelancing career. So I hope you'll enjoy this session. Okay, to start off, maybe a little bit about me. I mean, I think you guys heard enough. I'm Monica. I'm 23. I was an alumni of SoMAD, and currently I am a full-time freelancer doing graphic design. Why did I join the design field? Because, well, I have a lot of interest in visual psychology, basically using the principles of design to communicate or to deliver messages, to create emotional context through design. And I think that's a very interesting thing to be working on. So that's why I joined graphic design as a freelancer rather than going into VFX, because I realized that doing freelance and working on client projects would actually make me think about all these things more actively. So, yeah. How did I first become a freelancer? It starts off with, I think, many real life problems or relatable situations. I was a student. Oh, let me just excuse me. Sorry. Okay, I was a student with a problem. Financially struggling student. Okay, I don't mean that I didn't have bills. I didn't have finances to pay for like school fees. I just wasn't living the very luxurious lifestyle. I mean, I wasn't. Finances didn't come very easily. I come from a very average home, and I had a lot of as a student, I had a lot of things to pay. I had like to pay for art supplies. I had to pay for petrol, transport fees. I wanted to socialize with the world. I wanted to go out, watch movies, play bowling, go out for gatherings, and all these things required money which I didn't have as a full-time student only. And if you're like me and you don't want to bother your parents or your caretakers for that extra cash for your own entertainment, then you would want to find kind of like a solution to help you get through these issues. So I was thinking, okay, obviously to get money, you need a job. And I tried getting a job at retail places, but when you work at retail places that pay you about like 5 ringgit an hour, you can't really earn much. I mean, just to get like, for example, 800 a month, you would have to be working 20 hours a week, or maybe, maybe even less than that. I think the highest that I got at a part-time job was probably around 400 ringgit, and I was spending about almost 20 hours a week working. And when I spend 20 hours a week, like working at a retail in a different location, away from my computer, away from whatever assignments that I had to do, basically I was not spending enough time working on my projects. And if you are from, a design school or an art school, your projects or your assessments are not 100% exam based, they're all project based, which means that you will need to spend more time on your projects. So retail's jobs are not exactly the best places or the best way to earn money, because you will not have time for your projects. And that's what happened to me. I didn't spend enough time on my assignments, and for that one whole semester I performed really poorly. So then the solution came: freelancing, of course, contributing my skill sets virtually online. I get to finish it within like 2-3 hours, and then once I'm done with that, I'll get a little bit of money to sustain for myself, my needs, and then I can go back to my assignments that are important, right? So yeah, my first jobs or my first gigs were actually, the first one I actually had was Superhands. So Superhands is a great platform that actually does provides virtual assistant jobs. So you guys can go check it out later, superhands.com. You can even join them. This is a great place for you to start working the freelance kind of job, working from home. And then I also helped out my mom. Home cooking with Somjik. This is her YouTube channel. You guys can check her out. Subscribe, like. Okay, sorry. Basically, I prepared a lot of her design collaterals, her logos, her intros, outros. She paid me in food currency. Basically, I get to eat whatever she cooked for her channel, which is great. But at the same time, doing all these things for her also boosted my portfolio. I have something for logo design. I have a bit of motion graphic video editing portfolio. And then my first ever paid project that I got from a reference, like someone referenced me, a friend, or a commission, maybe you would call it, was this little logo design by Punch Through. I was only paid very, very little amount. The first job, this is my first job, I got paid 23 ringgit for this. It's a very small amount, but I took it because, experience, right? You have to start somewhere. Even if somebody offers to pay you so little, you still should take it. It's an opportunity. And then also, I had the privilege or opportunity, sorry, not privilege. I had the opportunity to work with a real client from Maybank. Basically, this was actually done when I was in first year of university. Maybank actually approached APU and said they needed a video to promote their new product. So a friend of mine, me and my friend, we basically took part in it. We teamed up and we created this stop motion video to promote their sort of product. And we won. It was a competition actually, and we won second place. So even though this is a competition, I still consider it as a part of a freelance job, because you're dealing with a real life client and you are catering to their needs. What do they need to promote their product that they're selling. So I had the opportunity to be able to present the ideas to the client and gather the feedback. So all this is part of an experience that built up to who I am and what I do today. And another client that I worked for as well was from APU, actually, Career Center. This was a great project that I worked on with my friends, my classmates actually from visual effects. They were a great team. We worked on this together, and I consider this also as a first freelance job because I was chosen to directly be in contact with the client. So it taught me a lot of lessons, like managing time, schedule, budgeting, making sure everything gets delivered when we promise on the date of promises, and being able to deliver according to the client needs. So it was an experience. It was a really good experience, and I'm grateful for a lot of these opportunities that I got while I was in university because that's where it all started, right? So currently, I have a few clients. Some of them, one of them is actually a small online boutique store from Singapore, and another one is a startup company called GrabMe. Very interesting company, very interesting service that they're doing. Basically, you can hire maids online, which is a very interesting concept. That's why I joined this client. I worked for them. And also Mr. Graphic Studios, which is a company by a good friend of mine, Musa and Mishan. They do production shoots, event coverages, visual effects, sort of things that they do. Yeah, they supply all these video editing essentials services. I was given the opportunity to work with them on a recent project by this local artist called Mugan Rao. I can't say the name of the song right, but I think if you are familiar or you follow Mishan, you might have seen it somewhere. So I was the concept artist for the environments. Yes, the very interesting project, and I still work for my mom because she cooks for me. Okay, so moving on. What does it mean to be freelancing? Okay, let's just talk about freelancing in general, okay? The fancy term is you get to work wherever, whenever, with whoever you want. That is sort of true, but if you are starting out, this is what you'll be facing instead. Finding your own clients and competing with thousands of other talents, and most likely to have unstable income. What I mean is, when you're starting out, do not depend 100% on your freelance gigs to be able to provide you with all that monthly income all the time, because it's very rare to happen unless you apply for retaining clients, which is basically clients who need just a small amount of um, things. Let's go, like, for example, like graphics, just a small amount of social media posts that they need a few times a month. Then you can sign up for those, or you can apply for those. Basically, they will reach out to you whenever they need it, but mostly those kind of jobs the pay isn't as high, but also it's a good place to start. Yeah. So some example of popular freelancing jobs, you can, graphic designing is actually one of the most popular freelance jobs that there are a lot of companies that are looking for designers to work freelance, because sometimes they don't really need some an in-house designer all the time. So yeah, this graphic design thing is one of the more common jobs that are available in the freelancing world. Then there's UI and UX designer, I can't talk. Illustrators, social media strategists, content creators, and so on. You can have a look on Indeed or JobStreet. You will see when you type in freelance, there's a long list of different types of freelance jobs that you can go into. And what are the possible career paths? You could be an entrepreneur. You could set up your own company or your own agency in the future. You could be a blogger talking about freelancing, or if you love graphic design so much, or you love design in general, you could set up your own blog blog about design, and you can also get some money from there. Digital nomad, basically you travel around the world and work wherever with whoever you want. That's a fancy one. That is a dream for a lot of people. And then you could also be a consultant, or you could be a full-time freelancer like me. So before you get started, I would recommend that you ask yourself this very important question, okay? Why do you want to go into freelancing? I have a pen, it's so annoying, I'm so sorry. So the first point that I asked a lot of people, I asked a few of my freelance friends this question, and some of them say to gain some side income. So this is particularly true, especially when they have a full-time job and they're looking to just earn a little more on their side. So like one-time freelance projects, they just quickly do it for about a week or two, get over and done with, and they get paid a certain amount that adds to their say allowance or something like that, right? The second thing is the luxury of working from home. So yeah, full-time freelancers like me, we can work wherever we want to be, wherever we want, as long as there is Wi-Fi. That's the most important thing in today's world. As long as there is a speedy Wi-Fi connection, you can work anywhere in the world. And a lot of people like this because it gives you the freedom of going down to grab a snack as often as you like, compared to like in the office. If you go to the pantry too often, people might judge you. I don't know how it works, but hearing from like people who have been working in offices, your bosses or your managers tend to watch what you do all the time. But when you work from home, it's complete freedom. You can do whatever you like. You can listen to music while you work. You can watch movies while you work. Totally up to you. Freedom of doing more of what you like. So some people maybe like they join NGOs or they have their own side projects that they're doing that they want to focus on. So they turn to a little bit of freelancing gigs to sort of provide a certain amount of income for them to, go out for a movie or something, pay a little bit of bills. Yeah. To be your own boss, basically. Yeah, I don't really agree with this term at the moment, because when you're a freelancer and you work for clients, basically your client is your boss. So unless of course you're doing like YouTube or blog, affiliate marketing or whatsoever, then yes, you get to decide what you want to do. Work less, earn more. So a lot of times when I discuss freelancing with other people, they always say that freelancing, let's say you work for a project for about a week, and you earn a certain amount. Like let's say you work on an illustration project and you earn 1,000. In just that 1 week, you would earn 1,000. Sometimes you work only 3 days for a high-paying client, and you will get 1,000. So that's more than what a fresh grad would earn in a company. But then again, like I mentioned, freelancing and clients, it's not a very sustainable thing. You don't always get it very often. So this is likely true for those people who have really established themselves in the freelancing world, and they're very, very popular, and they get to pick and choose their clients, or clients keep coming to them, and they have no problem in finding jobs. So this is one of the reasons. So my advice for people who are starting out, not to go full-time freelancing, I quote full-time freelancing, when you don't already have a stable income. So I would suggest that maybe you have something that has a more stable source of income, like you get paid monthly for it, and then you try freelancing on the side. If you live with your parents who are not able to back you up, this is especially true for me. I have an example. I got my freelancing job right before I graduated, and I was fortunate to have like a retaining client, someone who I verbally agreed with, that said, if you need any designs, you can reach out to me. And so far, the relationship has been great. And I've spoken to my parents and discussed with them, and they were okay with it as long as I'm able to sustain myself in certain ways. But if you are, fully dependent still on your parents or your caretakers, people around you, then I wouldn't recommend going full-time freelancing. Freelancing is a good way to start, but not full-time. Go look for a job. Okay. If you're fantasizing too early about the work from home life, basically, working from home is a luxury, and it's you get to do whatever you want, as I mentioned. But then again, I have to remind or point out that freelancing jobs are not as easy to find as some people think. You have to really work hard, market yourself really well. You got to compete with all the other talents. So maybe consider first, if you are ready to go through all of that. If you think you will immediately be able to travel the world while working from anywhere, okay, let me tell you, I have been doing full-time freelance for about a year and a half since I graduated, and the only place I travel is back to my mom's hometown. That's it. I have never not been able to solo travel or anything yet. So this you can eventually go once you've established yourself, but not so soon. So I would recommend, as I mentioned before, freelance while you are studying. The best time to start, if you're still a student, is now. Or if you are, currently tied to a company full time, you can try to source out some small freelance jobs. And Or if you are on a semester break soon, try to apply for small gigs to develop experience and build your portfolio. There are a lot of freelance jobs online. Um, okay, you can try to apply for those jobs where they have minimum budget. You can apply for those. Even though the pay is small, it is still a great way to start, because then you will get to show something in your portfolio. Okay, so next question that we're going to look at is where to source for your freelance job. Okay, so if you kind of do a search on freelancing or how to get started on freelancing, a lot of these blogs and websites will tell you to start on places like Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer. These are all the popular places to start. I won't lie, I did have a Fiverr account and a Freelancer account. Till today, no gigs, no jobs. The reason why is because you'll be competing globally with other talents. And it's difficult because there are people on Fiverr and on Freelancer and all these places. There are people who have already established themselves. They've got a high rating and they're smart. They charge like $5 an hour. And clients or customers who want to get something done quick, they would ultimately go to someone who has already has a rating. So it's much harder to compete with global talents. Okay, so I would recommend to look for local freelance platforms. Okay, so here are some that you can search. Indeed is something like Job Street. They have all kinds of different jobs, but they also list down freelance jobs. So, and I've seen quite a number of them, so you can have a look. Freelancing.my, Workana, Superhands, virtual assistants. They're a great platform. You can try to apply there. Favesr.com, and also Artis. I've recently got one of my clients from Artis as well. Great place to start. They're focused more on local jobs and local talents. Yeah, and the competition is lesser, so there's a potential for you to land a job there in these platforms. Okay. The next place to source for freelance gigs is actually your friends. So make sure you be nice to your friends. Okay, be humble, because believe it or not, these friends of yours that you work with, that you study with, one day, you never know, one day they might be entrepreneurs. They might have freelance jobs or opportunities that come to them, but they can't do it. So they need to pass it on to someone else. And that person could be you. This has happened to me so many times. I've worked with Mishan, I've worked with Carmen, Eric as well. And these people we always tell each other that, hey, if I have a job for you, I'll make sure I'll tell you. So even for myself, I always ensure that if there is a job that I can't do, I would reach out to one of my friends and say, hey, I've got a job. Do you want it? Okay, be humble, give opportunities to others so that, they will also give opportunity to you someday. Yeah. So when you leave college, don't disconnect from your friends. Stay connected. Okay, that's your first step in networking. All right, offer your skills to local service centers near you. This might seem a little bit challenging to some people. I would say you could go to like a local maybe restaurant, small time coffee shop, and tell them, hey, I like coming by here. I also like the food you have here, but I think you could I could help you get better customers or improve your customers or improve the menu design for say. An example of my experience with this was I did a small little video editing service, videography and video editing service for my mom's company when she was working with a company outside, an MNC company, and they had a little Women's Day event. So I loved video taking. I loved videography before, and I offered to help take videos for them. So I did. I put the video together. They loved it, and then they called me back for another one. It wasn't a paid job, but it still helped me boost my confidence. It helped me build more knowledge on how to, do event coverage stuff, this kind of things. So yeah, these jobs or these services to your local service centers near you is a great way to start as well. Stay in touch with industry experts. Yes, when you make friends with, let's say, when you go for an internship, you have supervisors or colleagues. Make sure you stay in touch with them, not just for exchange of knowledge, but sometimes they also provide you or give you the opportunity to work on a freelance project that they may encounter and that they want to share with you. So keep in touch. Don't be shy. Just be friendly. Okay, and now we're going to look at your target clients. This is another question to ask yourself. Most of the time when we want to go into freelancing, we just jump right into it. But it's good to think about this target clients or target projects, okay? So looking on projects, think about maybe, whether you want to work on some simple jobs with a very minimal amount of pay, because I see a lot of job postings on these freelancing websites that say, okay, I need illustration for to need 2 to 3 illustrations for a children's book. Payment is maybe 100 ringgit per project, and you would think, what, 3 illustrations for 100 ringgit sounds a bit too little, right? Maybe you want to maybe they could be offering to pay about at least 200 to 300, maybe even 500 for that. But I would say if you're starting out, this sort of project would be a good start. Even though it pay less, you will still have something that will give you an experience. It will enhance your portfolio, and it will boost your confidence in dealing with clients, talking to clients, communicating with them, liaising with them. It will give you it will give you something to practice and apply your freelancing skills and your business skills. Okay, projects with long-term opportunities. Okay, this is another type of project. This is actually something that I look for usually. As I mentioned, retaining clients. Sometimes they need just a few assets a month. You can reach out to these clients and say, I'm interested in your project or your job, and try to apply for it and see how it goes. So these sort of jobs will sort of give you kind of like a sustainable income in a way. Yeah. Or you want to look into one-time projects. One-time projects usually are like logo designs, or maybe they have like a campaign, so they need like printed items. those things where you only deal with it for a certain amount of time and then you forget about it. Yeah. So looking on to clients, when you apply for freelance projects, usually there are in certain cases where if you apply for locally, they might want to meet up with you or give you a video call just to see if you are a good fit to work with on their project. So you want to, when you go for the interview or the meetup or the chat, don't just think about, I want this job, I need this job and all that stuff. Also think about how well you can sort of click with your client, especially if it's like a long-term client. Just pay attention to the way they communicate with you, the way they talk, what are their wants, their needs. See if you're okay with it, if you can sort of vibe with it, I would say. Because there will be times when you work with a client and you jump into a job too soon, you might notice in the long run that you're not really a good fit because maybe language barriers, miscommunications, which will affect the work that you do. Then also think about clients, whether you want to join clients who already have like certain ideas in their mind, where they will say, okay, I want to create this and this for my campaign. I need you to do this. So basically it's just a very technical kind of job, so this will be able to help you practice on your technical skills. Or you can also think about joining clients who are open to explorations. Basically clients who say, this is my brand, this is my service, I need to create a campaign doing this selling this product for example. What then the client will ask you, what do you think, what is the best way to sell this product? So that way you will have to actually put your design thinking and apply and just do the work. So you have to think about these kind of things because they all contribute differently to your freelancing sort of experience and your freelancing jobs, and then in the long run they will affect you. I've had clients who particularly say, okay, I want this, I want exactly like this, and when I did it, I didn't really quite enjoy the job as much because I wanted to contribute my thought process on the design as well, because sometimes I have different ideas. So that's why I also like to join clients who are open to kind of like what I think, which is an interesting kind of job, because I get to practice how I would communicate to the world through my designs. So yeah, think about that. And we'll move on to the next session, which is sustaining your freelance career. Okay, so these are important points that I think we can take a note, especially when doing freelance and handling clients, etc. So the first one is to create a sense of identity, especially if you're like a graphic designer, because when you put your portfolios online, you would sort of market yourself through the work that you put out there. And I understand that when you work for a different amount of clients, you would have different set of like graphic styles according to their needs, right? But sometimes when you put out your own portfolio, it sort of speaks about you. It sort of represents you in a way. How do you do your work? How do you visualize certain messages? So I would say, build a brand, decide on who you are and what kind of jobs do you want to work on, what sort of things matter most to you, and then create little projects about those and put them out in the world. So it will sort of, when clients look through your portfolio and see the work that you do, they will sort of have this kind of idea about who you are through the visuals that you share. So yeah. Have a sense of uniqueness. What makes you stand out from your competitors? This is a tough one, because even today, I still have not answered this question for my own self, truth be told. Usually, what I would try to make me sound more unique is try to blend my service. Right now, I focus on my service. So, for example, when I sign up for like a graphic design job, I would also say, hey, you know, I can create still images for your social media posts, but at the same time, if you need, I also have skills to do motion graphic effects, for example, just to make your Facebook post or, you know, more interesting. And those are some of the ways that you can kind of like market yourself, make yourself more valuable to compared to like the other competitors. Have an extra skill set that you have, or maybe say, you know, if you are applying for a job or a project that is about, say, social awareness or environmental awareness, you can, in your proposal, you can write, hey, you know, I really care about what you do. You know, check out my portfolio. There's a lot of things related to the environmental awareness and conservation. Maybe you want to, you know, consider working together on this project, something like that. You know, have a sense of uniqueness, something that the client can relate to you. The second thing is would to be, sorry, again, I can't talk. Oh, second point is to identify your craft. Okay. What I mean by this is basically deciding on what kind of service that you want to do. An example for me would be, I started out as a visual effects student, right? And I ventured into concept design, concept art. I really liked creating environments, characters, thinking of stories. I really loved all those things. But even though I loved them, it would not have been a good idea for me to venture into freelancing for that area, just because I wasn't very good at it. So instead, I went with something that I'm more comfortable working with, which is graphic design. So always try to choose something that you know you can confidently deliver quality products, because then that will kind of boost your service. Yeah, and if you want to, for example, if you're in my shoes and if you want to do concept art, freelancing concept art later on in life, by all means, you know, as long as you market first. Sorry, as long as you first market the service that you're good at, because then that will give you kind of like a stepping stone into the freelancing world. Number 3, create your own hourly rates. This is very, very important. When I first started out, I didn't have this. And that was kind of like the dangerous things, because then, you know, some clients might kind of overstep the limits of their design or the service, you know. So you really have to think about how you want to charge your clients, how much you're going to charge them. And starting out, I usually did piece rates or value rates. Create one piece of illustration maybe, and say I charge that $50. But the truth is, you should charge by hour, because then that will help you manage your time. If you charge by piece, you could be spending 5 hours on it but only get $50, or you could even be spending 9 hours on it and you only get $50. I mean, if you worked in a retail store, you might have earned even more in a day. So like it's always best to try and practice working by hours, you know. The client says, okay, I need an illustration, I need 2 to 3 illustrations. How much do you charge for it? And then you look at it first and try to identify or decide how are you going to approach each of these illustrations. What are your methods that you're going to do? And then try to estimate the amount of hours that you need to complete it, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours, and then have a rate of like 1 hour is equivalent to 20 ringgit. So one illustration, if you do it for 3 hours, could fetch you about 60 ringgit for that. So yeah, and when you charge by hours, you can also practice, as I said, time management, because you won't, as a freelancer, you should not be spending too much time on just a particular piece. Especially if you have a lot of clients, you need to divide your time equally, divide your time appropriately. So have a timer next to you when you work. Do quickly as fast as you can. And if a client, let's say, for example, if a client needs something that is very high quality illustration, don't be afraid to tell them, okay, you need this one will take me about 6 hours to do. Okay, I don't know that that sounds ridiculous, but uh, an example, this will take me 6 hours to do. So I charge 20 per hour. Then there'll be this illustration will cost 120 ringgit. And some of them might say, no, I don't have 120 ringgit to pay for this illustration. I only have, for example, $40 or $60. Then say, okay, if that's the case, I will only work 3 hours on this illustration, and this is the quality that you're going to get. So it's okay to be upfront with your clients. Just let them know. And yeah, another thing that a lot of freelancers starting up would ask is, how much is their market value? How much should they charge per hour? One of the things that I do is I basically go to all those freelancing websites that I showed earlier and try to identify the different freelancers that are available there, see their rates, and then I see the quality of their work. And then I try to put myself within the line of that, whether they're high quality or slightly lower quality, and compare the charges that they charge. So there are some people who charge 200 per hour, but those are really, really good people who can work very efficiently. Then there are some who charge 20 ringgits per hour, and they have maybe beginner style designs. So you can try to put yourself on that scale and see where you stand. That's a great way to start. Number 4, build friendly and professional relationships. Okay, this is very, very important, especially when you're dealing with clients. Always speak to them in a very professional manner. Try to avoid using abbreviations like BTW for by the way, or how are you is, how about you, HBU, something, I don't know. Yeah, try to not to use any of those. Be very professional in the way you communicate, as most of the communication is done on chat. So be sure to use full words and understandable words. Try to be efficient in the way you communicate, okay? And there are some times when, even as a designer, they ask, or if the client asks your opinion and you say one thing, but then they're like, no, I don't want to go for that, I'm going to go for this instead. Don't argue with them, just go with the flow. It's their project anyways. And do your best to keep them happy, because happy clients always give happy testimonies. I will touch on this a little later, okay? So number 5, protect yourself from uneducated clients. Yes, there is such thing as uneducated clients. An example would be client who takes your work without paying. Personally, I've had this experience myself. A client asked me to design a pizza flyer, and I did it so well. I was so proud of my work. It was one of my first jobs. I showed it to the client, and I was like, hi, I've done this for you. Let me know your feedback. And then, then they were like, yeah, okay, thank you for sharing this. We'll have a look. And that was the last I heard from them. So I don't know if they actually used the design that I made, or they decided that it was not what they were looking for, but they never came back to me. So I didn't know what happened. All I know is they had my design. And one of the things that, and I didn't get paid for it. So I worked the hours, but I didn't get the feedback. I didn't get the pay that I was supposed to get, Even if they didn't use your design, they should pay you. All right. So what are the ways you can counter this problem is to leave watermarks on your design, especially when you're working for clients who say, no, we only want to pay after you're done with the job, because understandably, from clients' perspective, they don't know if you would run away or you won't deliver the quality that they would like. So you can say, okay, you will do the job, but you will leave a watermark on the design, and they will get the unwatermarked version once they have paid. Okay, so this is a good way to actually encounter this issue. Another way is to charge per progress. I've seen this online, especially for things like logo design. The first sketch on paper could be free, and then you put it into Illustrator and you just do the basic shapes. That's maybe say 50 ringgit, and then you add a little more variations. That'll be an extra 30 ringgit, and then when you start adding color, that'll be an extra 80 ringgit. So every time you progress, they pay you little by little by little. Okay. This is a very popular way, is to actually collect deposits. So it can be a 60/40 or a 30/70, but I think 60/40 is the popular one. Basically, you come up with a quotation, send them an invoice, and say, okay, this is the amount of hours I'll be working on for your project, and this is the my hourly rating, and this will be the total cost for the whole completion of the project. Then just discuss with the client and say that you would prefer to be paid 40% first, and then the 60% they can pay after you have done the project. This is a very safe. This is a very safe way to work on this, so that just in case you worked on it a little bit, and towards the end the client doesn't pay you, at least you still have 40% of the whatever they paid you from the total amount. Also, beware of clients who micromanages. By that I mean clients who don't really respect the revision limits. So there are some certain clients who ask you to do a certain job. You do it, and then you go back to them for feedback. And usually the revision limit for most designers will be about 2 to 3, but there are some clients who try to overstep that. So be sure to mention them earlier on that your revision limits would be 2 to 3, and then any more revisions after that, you will have to charge them. So you can charge them at a lower rate from your hourly rate, or whichever way that you want to go. But you just be sure to let them know that there is a limit to revisions, because you can't be spending your whole day just pleasing them and perfecting the work to their eyes. Okay. Number 6. Okay, keep your portfolios updated. Yes, this is quite a common tip. I mean, I'm sure we hear this all the time, but I think it's very important to always update your portfolios, especially after you've worked on a project. Maybe try to get some approval from your clients and ask them, hey, in a polite way, hey, thank you for giving me the opportunity to work on your project. Can I use this as part of my portfolio? And then sort of share with them maybe a link to your portfolio site, so that they know where the products or whatever work that you've done for them will go to. And most of the time they will say yes. Sometimes they would say no. That would probably be because they have not launched the product yet or so. So you can just wait a little while after you've worked with the client, or you can just be upfront with them and ask them when you can post this work that you've done for them on your portfolio site. Try to avoid last minute uploads. This is important because sometimes you never know when you might get an opportunity that you want to jump into, and then they're like, okay, can you please send us a link to your portfolio? But then you'll be struggling to upload all of your recent works that are so good. It might delay the communication time with your potential client. So yeah, just to avoid this, and last minute uploads always looks very messy. There's always something missing, something that is not consistent. So try to be a bit more disciplined on this, okay? And use digital platforms, of course. I think everybody knows this. Behance, have your own blog sharing your work. Instagram is a good place as well. And if you subscribe to Adobe CC, you could get Adobe Portfolio for free. It's a great site to showcase your portfolio works, and it comes with the CC suite if you subscribe to it. Number 7, learn complementary skills. Yeah, this is a good way to level up your value in the market, I would say. An example I can give for this is for myself. Basically, I do graphic design, and currently I'm learning a little bit about branding. just because whenever I do graphic designs for companies, the knowledge of branding will be able to help me with creating a graphic image that will represent the company better, kind of understand the use of maybe like different type of font weights, all those things. How can my graphic design relate to the brand of my clients? And it not just gives me extra knowledge and extra skill sets for my work, but it also makes me a lot more interested in what I do, because like I mentioned before, I love how you can create emotional connections with people who look at the design. I Learning branding can help me to understand it better and apply that to the work that I do. Point number eight, ask your client for feedbacks. Yes, this is the one that I was mentioning earlier. Portfolios are great, but testimonies are the bonus. Sometimes you can even include testimonies into your portfolio. Like, for example, you've worked on a project or a client, you showcase the work you've done, and just include a little snippet of their testimony. The reason why I say I put this point out is because there are certain clients or potential clients who are looking for designers, and they go through the portfolio, they see the work, they're like, wow, these things look amazing. But they would also want to know how your past clients feedback or their reaction to the work that you've done, and not just the work, but you as a person whom they have worked with. Just kind of like references of people's experience with you. So this is a good thing to have in your portfolio. When you ask testimonies from your clients, try to make it easy for them. Maybe you can create like a Google form with a Likert scale, nothing subjective, nothing that they have to type out, and just say, hey, I'm very happy to have worked with you. Could you kindly fill in this feedback form on my service? Just send them the link, and then they might fill it up. Ask them once, remind them, and then if they don't get back to you, don't push it. Just be polite. Sometimes clients are too busy to do all these things. If you don't get the testimony, it's totally fine. Don't worry about it. Just ask another client, right? If you're looking for like those like quote kind of testimonies, you could also give them a sample, because some clients, they would ask you back, how do I write a testimony? So you could just go online, Google it, some example of testimonies, write out one yourself, based on maybe your experience and how you think the client felt working with you. Send it to them, and they will see, if they like it originally, they will say, okay, yeah, sure, good to go. If they want to make some changes, they will edit it themselves, and then they will send it back to you. This is another way to get testimony and feedback. Number 9, be business educated. Okay, I think this is my last point for this sustaining your freelance career. Basically, as a freelancer, I would recommend that you read or listen or watch to a lot of tips about marketing yourself. Because I hear a lot of times that designers, for example, know how to do the work, but they don't know how to market themselves, how to protect themselves from the business world, because the clients that reach out to you, they're very business minded, and we need to be prepared on how to deal with these clients in a very professional way. So I would recommend reading a lot of freelancing blogs, just to get some tips. And one blog or creator that I would definitely recommend is actually Chris Do. I listened to his podcast, The Future, on Spotify. He even has a YouTube channel. You can check it out, and Instagram as well. They talk a lot about business and marketing and how to present yourself. One of the interesting topics was the elevator presentation, if I'm not mistaken, you have 9 seconds to sell yourself to a client. What would you say? And they literally give you tips, and that will make you think, okay, how would I sell myself in 9 seconds to a client? So these are the little interesting things that you can read about that will actually boost your knowledge and make you better at your future clients, your future projects, and I would also recommend to talk to people who have freelance experiences, especially like maybe you have mentors or supervisors. They have been in the freelancing world for sure. They have, because a lot of people in the creative industry um, are have a lot of these freelancing opportunities. They get jobs from here and there, and they've had years of experience, dealing with little clients, dealing with payment issues. So talk to them, discuss, ask them how did they handle the situation, ask them for their own experiences, because they might have something might have happened to them before that I have not mentioned today, and it will give you a new insight. It will get you more prepared in the future in case it happens to you. So yeah, that's those are my tips and my tricks, I guess, on freelancing. Um, yeah, and now I will just touch on about my progress in my freelancing career. So in the beginning, when I first started out, I was building my clientele. I was just reaching out to a few companies and saying, I'm a full-time freelancer. I would love to work on your project with your company as a graphic designer for social media. This is my portfolio. Basically, just trying to get as many jobs as I can, get my experience in working with clients, communicating with them, understanding their wants and their needs. And once I've had that knowledge, or sufficient knowledge, I want to make myself a little bit more professional. What I want to do now is create my official brand, maybe something like Monica Tissera Design, Monica Design something. The reason why I want to do this is because when I have my own brand, I have my own identity, it will help me land bigger projects and better clients, or bigger companies. I've spoken to a few of my friends who has been working in corporate companies, and they say, hey Monica, why don't you build your own brand or create your own company? Because my company actually outsources designs to freelancers, and they pay really well. And the job is a very simple job, maybe just to manage their social media site or create their logos. They pay really well, but you need to be a registered freelancer or a registered company, which is something that I'm working towards too. So that would be my future, registering a company, just so that I would be, more exposed into the freelancing world, have corporate connections, create something interesting that will have a large audience to impact on. So yeah, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to my freelancing journey and what I have to share. I hope you guys like it. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, may I pass it on to Mr. Leroy?
Hello, and thank you for welcoming me
Yes.
back.
Yes, welcome back.
Thank you, Monica, for your openness to share your journey thus far, as well as your plans. I think that kind of openness is not easy, especially to share with others as well. Okay. Now, just to update everybody, we will be taking questions for the Q&A session right now. Okay. So feel free to drop them by the chat. We will try our best to cover the questions within the given time. But as we were sharing a while ago, I found it very interesting that Monica mentioned about the title of freelancer. I think we want to give her a bit more of a fabulous title, a little bit more. I think we should change that to more like a gun for hire, because when we talk
Wow.
about gun for hire, it's sharp, engaging, and really accurate in terms of working with visuals. Okay, so I think that's what I think Monica deserves for now. Okay, gun for hire. So just a very quick one that I've picked up so far regarding her sharing. It's a very honest sharing. about the mistakes she has made, the things that she's learned, as well as how she picked herself up as well, and how she's learning the ropes of being a gun for hire. Some of the cool stuff that I picked up as well was like, start small, really start small, and definitely have the support of your family, because families are the ones that they are extremely important. Those are the ones behind you that support that people don't see in front of the freelancer. Okay, so always have that family support. Besides that, also building networks. She touched on a very, very important point. Networks, okay, and she said it by being humble, all right, and cross-supporting with her batchmates in projects that she worked together, even after she's graduated. Now, because I've known her, I also like to extend a little bit more to not just her batchmates, but the whole alumni, because when you graduate from a school, you're all one part of a family as well. All right. So the alma mater is a very, very important and integral part for you to build that connection and that network as well. And that's what we're doing here today, having her coming back and building that network with her as well. Okay. So some other points that I find extremely interesting were also diversifying her expertise with complementary skills. And that is extremely important in a world that demands a lot more from designers. Okay. And due to that as well, the learning still continues after graduation, Monica.
Yes,
So
it does.
the lifelong learning never stops.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very important aspect that sometimes we hear a lot about, but then when we step right out, then we realize that, hey, it's the real deal. It's really the real deal. Now, I think what will happen is we will start with a question that I have at the back of my mind as well. Okay, and this is because Monica has ventured straight into freelancing or as a gun for hire full time. Now, in this gig economy right now, okay, going freelance is a very, very popular career choice for many. Okay, but let's separate the myth from the reality. How flexible is your time at work? Are you able to just take a holiday whenever you like?
That actually really depends on the kind of jobs that you get. For me, especially if you have, like I mentioned, retaining clients that you say, I will be there for you every month, just tell me when you need something. You have to, if you're going for a holiday, just be sure to at least notify them a month before. And if you are going for a holiday, or you have a holiday plan, I wouldn't suggest to go for no sorry if you have a holiday plan, yeah, I would suggest not to go and look for jobs at that time. Yeah, just be in touch with the schedule that you have, because being a freelancer would mean that you're not the kind of person that just drops everything and goes. Your life would mostly be very schedulized, always have like a task, a to-do task, a calendar would be great. So you're always in touch with when you can do things, when you can go on vacation. If you're on an emergency break, maybe also let your clients know. But usually what I do is, if I go on holidays, I would bring my computer with me, which is a sad thing actually. But it's the reality. So sometimes I will let them know, like, hey, I know I have this job for you. I will try to get it done in advance, and then I'll go for my holiday. You may be able to reach me, but I will respond less or something. Just be really upfront to your client. They won't really get any angry if you let them know early. It's totally fine. Yeah.
Yep, that's right. I think that accountability is what really makes a professional as well. Definitely. Now, I think we've got a question from Kanchana. Please
Yes.
name the softwares that you use for graphic design, especially at the amateur level.
Okay. I would, maybe you can try. Hi, Kanchana. First of all, hello. Thank you for watching my live stream. I would suggest maybe you can try signing up for Canva. So Canva is an online a browser design thing. It's quite popular. So basically, they have a lot of templates. They have a lot of elements that you can use, a lot of different shapes. You can use that for a beginner when you first start off. Um, just to kind of look at, have an idea, or have resources at your disposal if you don't know where to start. And then maybe you could use Affinity Designer, if I'm not mistaken. Is that the name? Something that is something like the Adobe softwares, but they are either cheaper or they're free. I'm not really sure. Personally, I used Photoshop because I've used Photoshop from before. I started with CS6, CS5. So actually, if you still have those versions of Photoshop, you can use them. Essentially, you don't really need CC when you start, because CC is just a convenient way to do your work. CC has a lot of shortcuts, just for efficiency's sake. But essentially, you can use a CS6 or a CS5, whichever one version that you have. It's no matter. Yeah.
Thank you, Monica.
I hope that answers your question, Kanchana.
Okay, we also have another question from Neha Kumari. What is meant by testimony sample? I think earlier, Monica, you mentioned about testimonies from clients to boost up your standings as well. And she would like to know whether you could give her an example of what a testimony actually means.
Oh, okay. So hello, Neha. Thank you again. Testimony. Okay, testimony is basically what clients think of your work, what clients experience. What was the client's experience while working with you? So it could be something along the line of, an example would be, Neha was a great person to work with. She communicated very well. She delivered on time. She or he. I'm so sorry. I'm not sure. And yeah, it was a pleasure working with Neha, and would love to work with she again. These are kind of words that you can use as a testimony. Yeah.
Okay, but also I think that there are avenues for other people to review those testimonies, right? Where do they be able to share that for a freelancer to add value?
Sorry, don't get question.
Like for example, these testimonies, where would they be? Would they be on the super hands? Will they have that testimony that the clients are able to leave, or would it be more on like a LinkedIn testimony?
Ah, I see. Okay, so well, it really depends. There are some of the freelancing sites that I shared. Superhands, I'm not so sure. I don't think so that they have, because it's more virtual assistance on a larger scale. But I'm really not sure. You can check it out later. But there are some places like Workana, for example. Clients can leave testimonies on the freelancer's profile. So yeah, it can be there. It can also be in your own website, wherever you choose to have them. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think that really would add value to the standing of a gun for hire. Now we have another question from this one. I know it's a Mr.
Yes,
Matthew
Mr.
V. Anko.
Yes.
So
Hello, Mr.
his question: what is your personal best practice as a freelancer during this pandemic situation in Malaysia? Best practice.
Wow, my best practice. What my best practice? What does that mean? On which aspect? Is it the work that I do?
Yes, I
Okay.
believe that he's referring to the best practice of a freelancer.
Oh, that is a question to think about. I didn't actually notice any difference on my side. Just that during this pandemic situation, nothing much has actually changed for me. Thankfully, for my freelance gigs. So, so far I was actually prepared for some of my clients to tell me that they might not be able to pay me as much, or not have any jobs for me. But thankfully, there weren't any. During my research just a couple of weeks ago, during this MCU, there still are actually jobs available for freelancers. I think is that what Mr. Matthew is asking? My personal best practice.
I think you wrapped it up as in it doesn't affect you that much in terms of whether it's a pandemic or whether you're, because the mode that you're working in is already more of a remote working style, whereby yeah. But I think that that's something positive that we picked up is that it hasn't changed much in terms of the market demand, especially
Yeah.
for design work. Now, I would like to move on to the next question that I have in mind.
Okay.
Managing client relationships, as you were sharing, it's a very big factor in freelancing and sustaining it, and it's crucial to the survival of a freelancer. Could you share with us how do you sustain that relationship after a project has been completed and delivered?
Oh, well, always remain polite. Number one. Number
Mhm.
two would just again ask for that feedback, and then after you've asked for the feedback, just let them know that it was a pleasure working with them, and in the future, if there are any further future projects, that they have, that they might need a designer, you are available for hire, just can contact you. Yeah, just let them know, always in a polite kind of way, and
Mm,
mm,
okay. Uh,
sometimes, sorry, some just to add on,
mm,
sometimes if you need freelance gigs, don't be shy to go back to your former clients and say, "Hi, do you have any work that you need designs for or work done?" I remember I did that to one of my clients for about a few months. I reached out to him, I think, about 2 3 times. I said, "Hey, hi, do you have any jobs available?" And he's
mm,
like, I always said, "At the moment, no. At the moment, no." And then one day he reached out to me and like, "Hey, Monica, I have a job. Would you be interested?" I'm like, "Yes." So make sure that they remember you. That, yeah, I would say that's the point. Make sure that the client remembers you. Be a pleasant person to work with. So instead of finding someone else to get the job done, they would come back to you instead. Yeah.
Thank you. I think that that's the key point, the persistence of keeping that relationship as well. I
Mm.
think that's how people remember new faces. That's how people remember make memorable notices. And I definitely know that you're a very pleasant person to work with as well. Now,
Thank you.
for the next one, we have Mr. Philip Joseph,
Yes.
who has this question. He said, how would you be able to find local freelance sites? I mean, the genuine ones. I guess that his worry could be that there are many different types of websites on top of websites that may not be very honest or could possibly sound like scams.
Yeah, I get what he means. Yeah, thank you,
Mm,
Philip, Joseph, for tuning into this live. I'm glad you asked this question because I personally I have that problem as well in the past, looking for freelancing sites. So another thing about freelancing, just to share a tip with for security reasons, when you start your freelance business, just know that you you're going to have your contact information out there in the world in many different sites. Just make sure that when you start up, maybe have a separate email account, something that's maybe not tied to your personal accounts. Have a separate phone number. Maybe starting out, you don't need to have a separate phone number, but if you are quite established and you want to venture into more freelancing platforms, have a separate contact number, just so that you can avoid these scam sites. Because you never know, they might look genuine, they might they might actually be genuine, but you don't know their security. You don't know how well they keep all your information. So just be sure that your email address and your phone numbers are not linked to any of your personal like bank accounts and all those things. Yeah, and if you're talking about if Mr. Philip is asking about in terms of getting jobs, I would say maybe just spend a few minutes on the site, just check and see the other freelancers available, see how many jobs they've done, look at all the testimonies that left there, and maybe even browse through available jobs. You can somehow tell whether it's genuine or not by the amount of the varying kind of jobs posts that people put out. Um, some if you go through them, you might actually see if it's worthwhile, worth your time signing up for that freelance site.
Okay, great. Now, I think as we have talked quite a bit about things, we realize that not everything for a freelancer is a bed of roses.
No.
Okay, I think we really established that much already. But could you lend an insight, especially for those who are starting out, on how to recognize and to charge their worth,
Ooh,
like getting their rates and things like
getting
that? Yeah.
uh, okay. Well, starting out would be definitely I can't talk. Starting out would be difficult, definitely, because always have this question. You might always think, I'm not that good enough to be charging this amount. Is it too much? If I put out this amount, will I get any clients?
Mm.
So maybe when you first start, you can put a low amount, but always make sure, always try to research other people's market value. See how much they are charging, and then check out their portfolio. Just kind of see the work that they've done. What would you evaluate it on? Would it be a high quality work, or would it be low quality work? And see how much they're charging, and then try to put yourself somewhere on that line of high quality or slightly lower quality, and see where you lie. And then maybe high quality would charge probably like 80 ringgit or 90 ringgit an hour. Low quality would be say 20 to 30. So try to find that line.
Right, amazing. I think that's a very, very practical step, looking around at what the market is actually offering as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we have another question from Dream Network. My goodness, that's a very interesting name, Dream Network. As
Well,
a freelance graphic designer, can we use the free vector available in Free Pix, Vectorizy, or other websites for that matter? What I want to clarify is when we go professionally, is this legal?
yeah, that is a question. That is a very good point. When we use available vectors in like FreePic is a very popular thing. I've seen a lot of freelancers actually do this as well. Um, the thing that you can do is to modify them, because sometimes understandably that starting out would be difficult, especially like character poses. If you need to illustrate characters, um, getting the pose right might not be a skill set that you have. So what you could do is you could take it into Illustrator and then make the changes, change the clothes, just change the shapes a little bit, do some modification. As long as you're not directly using someone else's design onto your work, then it should be fine.
Okay, sweet. I think just to expand on what Monica has shared as well, there are also um, certain websites like there are Creative Commons attribute none that a lot of people can actually use, like Pixabay. I think that
Mhm.
that's a very, very good website whereby you can actually use it commercially for free without attributing the original author. So
Yes.
do keep a lookout for a lot of these websites out there now. Now, oh
Yeah.
wow, we have another person who almost shares the same name with me, but he sounds a little bit more awesome. He says Royce. Okay, Royce would like to know, what would you do if you missed a deadline? Oh gosh, it starts with DAAD line. Deadline.
What would I do if I missed the deadline? Oh, I wouldn't lie. It has happened to me before. Um, Usually, before I even miss the deadline, I inform my clients. I will say, "Hi, apologies for you know, I like to apologize first off. This thing that I promised to send you, I will not be able to send you due to an emergency or untimely event in my schedule." I then make another deadline, and there are some clients. who would be okay with it. Then there are some clients who would not be so okay with it. But if they're not okay with it, then try to finish it up as fast as you can. Don't get any sleep that day. Just do it, because again, happy clients give happy testimonies. Yeah.
Definitely.
Another good thing to do whenever your client gives you a project, just kind of ask them when is their deadline, or when is their deadline, when is their launch date, for example, so that you can discuss and estimate. Let's say, for example, they have a project that they want to launch on June 10th. And their target to have all your illustrations completed would be June 8th, maybe. Try as yourself, try to set your deadline to June 6th or something, just in case anything happens, you would still have an amount of time to deliver the work. So it's more of preparing yourself for any of this unplanned missing deadline situation.
Definitely. I think we've picked up that the sense of organizing your work and the time that you have with your work, as well as the accountability that you have with the
Yeah.
clients as well. I think that's a perfect combination. I think we are coming into to almost the end of the Q&A session. We're going to take the last question, and it's from Mr. Vishnu Haran. Okay. Thank you for sharing your experience. I would like to add some points regarding the rate card. Okay, so this is regarding the charges that the freelancers have. Your hourly rates, should it include costs such as IP, creativity, and utilities? What are your thoughts? So it's more than just the charge of the designer. Yep.
I see, I see. Yes, yes, this is actually a really good point. Thank you, Vishnu Haran, for sharing this. Perhaps when you are charging your rate, thinking about your rate, let's say, for example, your workmanship, you want to charge it at 30, and you pay for things like Adobe subscription, maybe, right? So you can throw in an extra $10 for that. You don't have to tell the client this. You can just keep it to yourself and just say, yeah, my hourly charge is $30 an hour. And you know for yourself that that also covers the other things, the other tools that you use and stuff like that. And just another point that I want to throw out. Someone asked the question about using free pick images and all those things, right? Another thing that you can do as a designer, if the client is looking for, let's say, illustrations certain kind of illustrations that they like, you can also try to go on stock image sites like 123RF, or maybe something paid in FreePic, and tell them, hi, I think, do you like this illustration? If you like this illustration or you like this stock image, maybe ask them if they're willing to buy it. And if their campaign is something that they're aiming big or something like that, they would actually buy it. But sometimes they want something free. So if they want something free, you can just throw on something simple. But if they want something really high quality, just let them know that they will have to pay for it, an extra amount for it.
Okay. Thank you. I think that really wraps it very well up as to the charges, as well as the additional charges that might actually come along with using some of these resources.
Yes.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing. I think that's all the time that we have for the Q&A session. All right. And I wanted to pull Mr. Edwin in, and he just jumped right
I'm
in.
here.
Now it's a
Hello,
party.
welcome back.
I'm here. Thank you very much, Monica. Thank you, Leroy, for this wonderful session. I'm reading the comments. I believe you've not gone through the comments. Very, very positive comments on the session. I believe you have been very, very honest in sharing your experience. Exactly that. What the audience exactly want. You have taken us through the hardship that you have gone through, the falls, and how you actually overcome all those things in a very, very simple but an effective way. So thank you very much, Monica. We, as your lecturers, the school is proud of you.
Ex-lecturers, Bano.
Thank you.
Ex-lecturers are really proud, and thank you for this wonderful session, both of you. Thank you so much.
All right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah. So before I conclude, Monica, any parting words, and Leroy?
Wow, and firstly, I want to say thank you to everyone who watched the live stream. Very, very happy to be sharing all these points to you guys. If you all have any questions, I think you can drop me an email at monicatissera@gmail.com. And if you want to find maybe more of my portfolio links just to see what kind of work I've done, you can just Google me, Monica Tissera, and some things will pop up. You can just click on them. Yeah. And thank you again for tuning in and all for the positive feedbacks. I'm very, very happy to be sharing my knowledge with you guys. Yeah, there you go. My email is there. Write it down, send me a message, ask me some questions. I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
As for me, I would say thank you for having this session, and also to Monica. I think it's really enjoyable to actually have this conversation online, and do support our gun for hire.
Thank you,
Monica.
thank you.
All right, that's it from me.
Thank you very much, both of you. It was indeed a great session this Friday evening. A lot of definitely an eye opener for most of us. Thank you again for sharing this with us, Monica. And to our audience, thank you very much for being so participative. I think we have answered all your questions. Mostly we have been able to answer all your questions. And thank you very much for that. I've shared the feedback link for you in the live chat. Kindly give your valuable feedbacks. It means a lot. Once you fill in your feedback, you can actually claim your e-certificate, and we'll be happy to share your e-certificate via email within the next 3 working days. Yeah, so we'll be able to send you across. And on that note, I want to give a prelude to what's coming up next on our webinar series. This one is going to be very, 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 very big, and I want to share you what's coming up in the upcoming weeks. So let me share it with you. Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
We have Mr. As Dalal, who will be exclusively sharing his experience as a science fiction filmmaker and filmmaker with us, coming up on the 12th June 2020. As Dalal is a UK-based self-brought up science fiction director, and he has done The Beyond, The Origin Unknown, and a lot of series in Netflix. So Mr. As Dalal has been kind enough to actually obliged to do a special session only for us. So we were looking forward to your support, and this is a session for all filmmakers, budding directors, people who want to actually get into the science fiction field. And the best part is, As Dalal is a technically sound person, so he uses the latest technology in all his films. So this session is actually going to be a up-to-date, current knowledge sharing session with Mr. As Dalal. So we are looking forward to meet you all on the 12th June 2020. Same time, the session will be happening. It'll be more like an interview session where you can ask your questions, and he'll be happy to share his knowledge and experience with you. So on that note, I like to sign off from this session for today. And again, thank you very much, Leroy and Monica, and our participants for the day. Thank you so much. See you next week with another interesting session.